So it's the weekend, which means that Dua is releasing a bunch of new fragrances. And surprisingly, about a week and a half ago, I came home and at my doorstep was this brand new fragrance. I didn't have to sign for it or anything. This one is called Mr. Dua, and I'm assuming it's one of the brand new fragrances. As a matter of fact, Massam told me himself via a WhatsApp message that this fragrance was launching this weekend, so here I go. The only issue is that I don't have a note breakdown, but I'm so excited to do a video for this one that I am going to forego looking at any note breakdown. I'm going to give you my unfiltered thoughts and what I perceive from the smell. I'm excited to get on with this video, so make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin today's episode and I give you my thoughts on the brand new fragrance, Mr. Dua, kind of reminds me of like Mr. Burberry by Burberry. I want to start things off by saying that if you're a fan of fragrance-related content, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. Hit the bell icon so you could be notified whenever I do upload future videos to the channel. And of course, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, or if you took something of value from today's episode, or simply if you learned anything in today's video, would really mean a lot to me. So of course, Dua does pretty big sales almost every weekend. If it's a very special weekend, like a Labor Day weekend or something like that, 4th of July, they always happen to do a slightly bigger sale where I think it's like 30% off instead of 25% off or something like that. But in any case, a lot of the fragrances that they do release, especially if they're being released in a limited quantity, seem to sell out rather quickly. Well, here we have a brand new fragrance with a beautiful box with like a metallic plate on the inside, and it actually says Dua, and the atomizer is pressurized. A lot of beautiful additions and upgrades to the presentation, and it even came with an outer box. So I thought that was a really nice touch. In any case, I'm smelling this fragrance and I'm like, what am I getting from it? I don't have a note breakdown, so I'm kind of going into this blind, but I am going to wait until the sale starts in order for me to publish this video. Today's date is January 12th, so we'll go ahead and see when I end up publishing this video. In any case, I'm excited to give you my thoughts on this fragrance, but let's start things off with the presentation. Now, right in the opening of this fragrance, all I got was this really thick and powdery amber. Now, amber is a beautiful accord, right? So it's one of my favorite accords when done right. Some ambery fragrances can be overly powdery. Some ambery fragrances can have so much vanilla in them that you don't really get the other resins that are in the background, whether it be the labdanum or the benzoin or what have you. And there are some other ambery fragrances that are so dry it feels like sandpaper. Now, in the case of this fragrance, I feel like it doesn't go in any of those three directions. Instead, what it does is it strikes a really nice balance of all of those notes, in the sense that I do get a touch of sweetness from it, and it can even be like this, wow, the vanilla is so beautiful. It's this really warm, rich, inviting vanilla. Initially, I was like, does this remind me of Amber Absolute by Tom Ford? And it kind of does. And then I started thinking of other ambers in my collection. I started thinking of fragrances like Alchemy by Laboratorio Olfativo. I believe it's, or Alchemy or Alambar, excuse me. It's Alambar. Amber Ocularia by Electimus London. And this one, while it does have a bit of a spicy, complex personality, it's not as boozy as something like Amber Ocularia. Instead, what you get from this is a hint of powder in the opening that kind of reminded me of rose. And I said, you know, and there might very well be some rose in here. If not, I stand corrected. I do apologize for the error. But I do kind of feel like I'm getting a little bit of like a rose in here, whether it be a Turkish rose. It feels very dense and jammy. It doesn't smell wispy and ethereal. It doesn't smell like something that is fleeting, but rather something that really enshrouds the composition in a resolute manner. So it's a little powdery. You definitely have like this sort of exotic floral bouquet in there, but it's all about the amber. It's this spicy amber. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a touch of saffron in this as well. It definitely comes across rather warm, long-lasting, really resolute. This isn't a light, airy, aquatic, citrusy fragrance. There's a lot of that happening on the market, and I've had my fair share of citrusy fragrances, and Dua does those really well as well. They have a fragrance called Flagship, which I think is really, really good. They have a fragrance called The Meteor, which is their interpretation of Meteor by Louis Vuitton. So I know Dua can do citrus very well when they're presented with the task. I think that in this fragrance, however, they went in a much darker direction. And it is an original creation, so they're not recreating any popular designer or niche fragrance. Instead, they're putting out their version of an amber. And that is solely my interpretation of it. I could have missed the mark on that completely, but I'm telling you, it smells like a really rich, really well done amber fragrance. Now there's benzoin in there, or styrax. I am getting that sort of slightly medicinal quality, but it's very warm. There also could be Copahu balm, there could be Tolu balsam, there could be something warm and green and resinous, but that balsamic richness is so dense. It occupies the base in such a plentiful manner, it's impossible to miss. I think this is absolutely beautiful. The amber, the vanilla, the labdanum, the benzoin, all of these other rich resins that are in this fragrance are just done with such clarity that it's impossible to miss. You know, you smell it and you're like, wow, this is almost kind of like an Amber Absolute on steroids. Almost imagine Amber Absolute, but without so much of that incense, and maybe with a touch of rose in there, or something powdery, exotic with a hint of spice. It's a beautiful fragrance. I look forward to exploring this a bit more deeply as we embark on perhaps one more cold month, and then eventually we'll start to see, you know, spring popping its head through, but we still have a bit of winter left to go. So I know this is going to be a perfect fragrance to wear as the season remains cold, but also when it starts to transition into something perhaps a little bit warmer and hopefully not rainy. Let's go ahead and finish things off with my overall assessment. Now, first up, in terms of the uniqueness and the overall smell, this is a unique fragrance. Certainly, I've tried many amber fragrances in my career, and I've encountered, you know, maybe between 20 and 30 new amber fragrances every single year. But this one really stands out in the sense that the amber is richly done. The ingredients smell of high quality. That slightly exotic floral presence with a hint of spice in there is just so exquisite. In terms of the longevity, 10 plus hours, you won't have any issues with that. Projection was amazing for the first 2 hours of application. For the first hour, it radiated beyond an arm's length. For the second hour, it radiated at about an arm's length. It became an elbow's length scent right around hour 6 or 7. It became a skin scent right around hour 10. Performance on this one is fantastic. Now, in terms of the versatility, it's a little masculine leaning, it's a little earthy, it's a little green, it's a little ambery, so it has a lot of ingredients that are traditionally perceived to be masculine, but I think this one is a great formal occasion type of a scent. I probably wouldn't wear this one casually, one, because of the price tag that I'm anticipating. Don't know exactly how much it's going to cost, but I perceive it's going to be on the more expensive side of things because of the materials and the size and the luxurious presentation. And also, I think this one is great for the colder weather, as I mentioned before. In terms of the presentation, probably the best presentation that Dua has done so far. My final verdict on this fragrance is, if you are looking for a beautifully done amber and you like the way that I described this fragrance throughout the course of this review, you owe it to yourself to, at the very least, get a sample of it. I don't know if this is going to be available in a Dua Solo travel atomizer, which is 10 milliliters, but if it is, you must sample this one. If you're a fan of amber, this is a no-brainer. Thank you so much for watching me today. I hope you took something of value from this review, and I hope I gave it a somewhat accurate assessment, given the fact that I did not have a note breakdown, but I really did enjoy smelling this one and analyzing it and just really trying to break it down to the best of my ability. I hope I did it justice. It's a beautiful scent. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this review, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. Hit the bell. Give it a thumbs up. That tells YouTube that you like this type of content, and hopefully you see more of it in your feed. Thank you again, as always, so much for watching. Love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.